Welcome to episode 4 of Fort 1E.
Wow, I did not
This
think we would get this far.
Quattro, the episode of the Quattro.
The episode of the Quattro.
Yes.
Welcome,
And
everybody.
welcome. I had some intro music on before, and now it's off. But it doesn't matter because now we're talking, and this is an important time.
This is more important.
Just having someone you talk to every day, kind of important.
It seems very true. They're like, since they know what you did yesterday, the day before that, they can give you perspective that, like, some other asshole isn't going to be able to give you.
Yeah, it's just like kind of accountability as well. It's like the only reason why going into an office would be more productive, theoretically, maybe.
Yeah, it's mutual too, and I think like humans just tend to do that. If you're asking me about my day, I'm gonna be more inclined to start asking you about your day, and then we'll become people that check on each other's day every day, and then we could be like, hey, why are you doing so much cocaine lately?
Yeah.
Stuff like that, friend stuff.
Well, sure.
Share your cocaine with your friends.
Well, don't do it all yourself, for sure. That's
Exactly.
fair.
That's fucked up.
If you have cocaine, you can't do it all yourself, no matter what.
That would be a shame.
You should probably just throw it in the toilet.
Or at a police officer.
Definitely not, unless you want to have your neck stepped on.
Like, hey, good looking, and then just throw a bag of coke at them.
But you'd have to fill up a pillowcase with cocaine and just walk up to the cop and just whack him with it. And then we go, and then all the cops would be like, oh shit. Hit them, all the cocaine would like hit them in their eyes and like they breathe it in and then they'd be like, oh shit.
And they'll all immediately start coughing and breathe harder, right?
Yeah. Actually, yeah, that's a terrible idea.
That's a great bit. No, that is a good bit.
But a good bit.
Yeah. I guess if you do it with a drive-by, like there's a police officer standing, not paying attention, and you get your buddy, your friend.
It would make a huge cloud.
Yeah, like they were going to do all the coke without you, and you're like, I got a better idea. And then get in the car. And they just drive, and you hang out the passenger side window with a pillowcase full of cocaine.
So remember last week when we inaugurated you and you had to hit those mailboxes with the baseball bat? This is the same thing.
Very similar. We're giving back to the community. Coked up police officers work harder.
Well, you got to fight tasers somehow. And I choose pillowcases.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
But ideally, I mean, I have no intention of getting any cocaine or having any cocaine. So, I mean, a pillowcase isn't much of a weapon by itself.
Not without cocaine, it's not. That's really the key ingredient in that bit. It's the cocaine. So, speaking of friends that ask each other how they're doing, how are you doing, Greg?
Pretty good. I watched a lot of Mad Men yesterday after our podcast.
Very nice.
It's pretty much to the conclusion of the series. And then I was like, damn, 7 seasons. And I was like, wow. What if the series of my life ended today? Like my own personal life series was just started 7 years ago and then ended today. And that's fucking interesting as hell. I would watch the shit out of that. That's what I was thinking. I've just been like, and then what happened next? And like I got like 2 years in and I'm just like, I have to go to sleep. Like this too much shit happened. Like it's too intense. I need to go to sleep and then wake up and then continue from year number 2 or something.
Yeah, I think some people might not either remember things in a way that like they think is interesting. So they're not going to recall it like that. Like they're going to either think like, oh, this shit was boring, like not their entire life, but some parts of your life. I think depending on your perspective, you can either look back on them as interesting things that happened or not. And the same thing can happen to two different people, but they'll remember it differently.
Context. Yeah. Well, 7 years ago, I graduated college, and I was
Yeah.
like, really, the biggest adjustment was like the world's like I got out and realized how fucked the world is
Mm-hmm.
was then. But now, the people graduating now are experiencing a whole new level of fucked upness that has not been experienced in the modern era. So, that just,
Yeah.
oof, goes to show. But maybe possibly is better because there's no farce that the infrastructure works. If there's no infrastructure.
The infrastructure of the government, or like, I guess maybe that's just the structure of the government, you mean?
Well, not of the government, of business.
Mm.
Like the greater machine that controls all of commerce,
The
buying
bigger
and selling
machine.
things, production, consumption.
Isn't that us, the consumption?
Well, we are consumers, of course.
So the machine is everyone.
Well, it's more along the machine is the money making machine. It's like people just have to do the thing to make the money. And the way that one business influences another, like every other business dictates the terms of every other business.
Sure.
And if there's like a way of doing things that's backwards or not as efficient, if you're coming into the workforce as someone who sees really efficient networks and is used to things operating at a very high level, like a senior in college, research or something, you put into you having to adjust to these maybe broken, outdated ways, and now that's not the case because these broken, outdated ways aren't being taught to them. They're not having to go backwards. They're not having to learn things that aren't completely relevant to them and their development. And I think that's good. Like people aren't reading how to, menial tasks, how to, I don't know, I can't think of a menial task right now at all. For me, it was for testing pharmaceutical supplies, like reading and just repeating the same thing over and over and over again. I'm like, well, this is what I did in college. So my thesis, I had,
Yeah.
like I'm not learning anything from it. I'm not, my job training is not growing me as a person. And maybe it was growing me as a person, but the feeling is really the most important thing.
Mm-hmm. I think if it's scientific like that, and you do need to be accurate, you're going to get at least a little bit of skill and a deeper awareness of the chemicals and pharmaceuticals, drugs that you were working with. But yeah, it's certainly very different from actually like writing something for research on something new. And trying to and not doing the same thing every day. There's something about doing the same thing every day that definitely isn't going to feel fulfilling.
Ideally, if you have a really effective workforce, you have a boss who knows exactly 100% of the time what the new person needs to be doing to develop it, to do the job that you're going to need them to do eventually.
Mm-hmm.
So if everything is good, everything is lined up, the worker is gonna be doing something that is valuable to them, to building their skills.
Yeah.
Towards using their potential, using their ability for production, getting production out of them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the case. More businesses than not are just looking to exploit people for the acts that they can be trained to do, and aren't really concerned with the greater development of their careers or even specifically individual development, personality development, learning about emotions and people and the world, how that's really Why not? Why is it a distraction from work to work on those things? So,
Well,
it's forcing people to work on themselves first, since they're not just automatically inundated with what needs to be done by the person who they're being extorted by, or vice versa.
extortion seems like a strong word, but maybe it's not in this case. Man, when I think of a menial job kind of thing, I remember working for Dunkin' Donuts, and one thing that business did do is what you described. They had me cooking, they had me making drinks, they had me working the window, they had me cleaning various things, and they did that with everybody. And that's how everybody slowly understood how the entire operation functioned. And, if I'd stayed longer, I would have learned how to make the bagels and the muffins, and other people knew how to do that I didn't, and I didn't. Um, Echo. Uh, so I was sort of being prepared to improve, and I learned a bunch of different things, and I overall became more comfortable with cooking and with cleaning and with talking to strangers, which I would regard all of those things as useful things for myself that were worked on by performing my job. So I think in a lot of ways, jobs will fill those criteria, and you will be doing different things and working on yourself kind of by accident by doing the job. Now, at the same time, it behooves the business to pay you as little as it possibly can. And it behooves the employee to be paid as much as they can, so there's always this conflict of interest. Is there a situation where it's exploitation? I don't know. I definitely felt exploited at Dunkin' Donuts, but looking back, definitely don't feel that way anymore for a number of reasons. The reasons I listed, all the things I learned from it. Even just realizing, like not like there's looking at a job and thinking I never want to do that job, and then actually doing it and being like, whoa, I really don't want to do this job, and it was sort of like a sign that I should try harder to get a better job, that was what it was. And everyone else that was working there is also younger than me. That's another important thing to remember about a job like Dunkin' Donuts. If it's not especially intellectual or gonna expand your career in an amazing way, that's fine and can actually be really good, because it's sort of nice that there's this easier job situation available to younger people that wouldn't be able to work at an actuarial firm or in a research lab. But it's great that they get job experience and money and get to learn all the things at 16 that I should have learned at 16 that I learned at 23 after getting my college degree. To Dunkin' Donuts I went, but 22, regardless, it doesn't feel like a menial job anymore, and I think it would be tough to find one. I think maybe what would be worse to find is something like working in a mine, where it's not so much menial as it is physical, dangerous. Well, yeah. You're probably just your lungs suffer more than anything else.
But you're kind of working out. It's like a different job as well.
No, I mean working in a mine nowadays means
like you can't work in a mine until you build on the physical strength to mine. So it's different. Like on your first day in a job, it doesn't matter what you're gonna have to just hold the pick all day.
You don't mine with a pick.
Okay, you know what I'm saying. It's allegory. I'm being metaphorical, but
well, your metaphor sucks, because what I'm saying is that if you're mining today, you're breathing in metals and toxins, and you're operating giant machines that can sever your limbs off. And the amount you get paid is probably, to some extent, exploitative. And those people should be paid more, but because they don't have as much ability to win the back and forth the conflict of interest between the employer and the employee. If you can have relatively uneducated people with not much way to represent themselves effectively doing that job, you as the business can get away with paying them less while they're risking their lives. That sounds like exploitation.
That's exploitation. Okay.
And there might be other examples, but I don't think this is the rule. I think this is the
like children working factories, extreme cases.
Mm-hmm. That happened, but theoretically, it's not happening that much here. I'm sure, like there's like some factory somewhere in the United States that has kids working in it, right? We've got everything, but I don't think it's the rule that this is what happens with businesses, that they exploit employees and consumers.
Okay. Well, back to the original point of graduates now. I mean, I hope that people are using their time better than a potential boss first-time employer would have told them to, but many aren't.
Mm.
Many just are in their own rut routine, and this leads me to my next thing I want to talk about, which is default paranoia, or the paranoid state of the default state of paranoia that I don't know, the media has kind of put us in about this, but how much of it is paranoia, that is up for debate, and that is actually the root of the paranoia.
So in this case,
we're starting to remove, or at least think about removing, the restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to get hit with like a few waves of paranoia.
But is that the right word here? Isn't paranoia that you suspect something real or something that isn't real is following you? I guess you can kind of make it such that that's the case with COVID, but I guess
there's no virus detector. There's no way to like, oh, now we know where the virus is. We know where the virus is now. So
yeah, it's a weird type of pervasive anxiety that will probably increase, but I don't think it's unwarranted. Like, I think, like, if we knew there was going to be twice as many tigers around for the next 2 weeks, I would be more worried about getting eaten by a tiger. And as long as I don't.
What if we're running out of supplies? like we need to start to think about the tigers.
Which supplies are we running out of?
Well, I don't know. Supplies in this case, it's just maybe patience, maybe patience. Just cabin fever arising.
People need to get over it. There's the internet. Like, what's the big deal? I don't. If the only problem is that you need to be patient, then buckle up. And like, there's much harder things to do, like surgery and going to the moon. Like, if all we're asking is to just be patient, come on. You kind of get to be in the team of heroes that did the right thing. You just gotta. You do nothing, like, and you're complaining. I mean, without the internet, that'd be one thing. But come on,
that's true.
You can watch every movie ever created.
Well, here's the consequence. Are you ready?
Yeah.
People are much better actors after quarantine's over because of how much TV they've been watching.
Is that how it works?
Yes. Every interaction is going to be more valuable after the quarantine, for sure. It's going to feel that way, maybe.
Well, and in that sense of having,
people
like,
are starting to plan like what I'm going to do once quarantine lifts and stuff.
That will be exciting.
Or desires, and that's obviously going to lead to disappointment, and then conflict.
Ripe for drama.
Yeah, it's going to be very nice to see how it unfolds.
people
or
that
maybe
have
not so
been.
much. Maybe my life's going to turn way worse
I hope so.
afterwards. I don't see how much worse it can get, but
Yeah,
I'm not living under a bridge, so
there's always that. A bridge for every troll.
I'm not a troll though, so and I don't have a bridge. There we go, both.
There we go. I could use a bridge.
I just picture like a bridge appearing over you. I don't know.
That'd be cool. Some kind of
Maybe
rainbow
one of us
bridge.
were good at animating, like them.
I
Like
mean,
George Harrison, go with animating so guitar.
we could figure it out. I worked on a video recipe or series of Indian recipes that someone in the local town filmed, and
Native
I
American.
have transitions. What's that?
Native American,
No.
like
If
from India.
that's the when I say Indian, I mean someone from India.
Okay. Because your area, you're talking about your area, has Native Americans.
It
Native
does.
American preserve there, so that's why I thought you were talking about that. But obviously, I don't know why you would. I thought you would be use the wrong word. That doesn't make any sense. So.
It's baffling to me that it's worth clarifying. I agree that it was worth clarifying, and I don't think it was a dumb question or anything like that, because even if there weren't Native Americans specifically in the Hamptons, sometimes I hear historians call Native Americans Indians, and I just like and I'm saying I'm going to call people from India Indians and people from America Native Americans, like Germans, they're the ones from Germany. Do I need to go like why do I need to explain any of this? And it's not it's just something that I really don't understand how it stuck around for so long. We knew like 500 years ago it was a different place.
Yeah, it's completely ridiculous. But this pipe was made in India.
Well, that's cool. That would be a cool place to go.
Really would.
I've heard it's hot, but as long as I prepare myself to be sweaty for a bit, the food is amazing here. The Indian food here is amazing. It must rock there.
It was amazing. It was amazing.
They're geniuses at that.
It's as good. Never mind.
It's as good on the way out as it is on the way in.
It was a little painful. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm sorry that happened.
Take a shower immediately after defecation.
I'm glad.
So I'm very thankful that I was in the position where I was able to do so, and that my hot water was on.
That's fortunate. I've never had that. The first time I heard someone saying that, it's bad on the way out or whatever, I thought they were joking. It might have even been you. I didn't know that you could feel spiciness in your butthole, but the human body is just
amazing.
Ever surprising. It's never done letting you know something new. So, yeah, college students now coming out, I am hoping that it's just like it always is, the latest group of young people have the most radical-ish kind of thoughts, and even if they might get certain things wrong or do some things a certain way, they're going to be indicative of the general angle of everything and like how it's all like overall gonna go. And like the 70s, there's a lot of times where police officers and hippies both were violent and didn't do the right thing, but eventually, overall, it's more peaceful now, statistically. I'm hoping that.
For now.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it does appear that people have consistently been able to get smarter, and if that continues, then these kids should be even smarter. And I'm actually I think we should be pretty stoked about people just busting out of college, because that's probably a good place to look for how we fix like big pollution problems, like some of the biggest. Like there's someone who was coming up with a way to make like sort of like turning the ocean into a toilet, like making it so that there's a big, the whole Atlantic Ocean gets into a spiral current with like just a huge like series of boats that have like fan blades between them.
Whirlpool?
Kind of.
Whirlpool? Like, in the swimming pool, you make a whirlpool by
Yes.
running in one direction.
Exactly that. Well, you know what? It's probably not the whole Atlantic Ocean, just like the Indian Ocean, but there's like a place where, because of currents, pollution really builds up, and so they're doing all this math about the currents and liquid fluid physics, and basically making it like a toilet, and everything would spin into the middle, and then they would take it all away from there.
Like a scoop. Okay.
Something like that. Or just yeah, and like pick it up and throw it at the sun. But it would definitely make a fart sound when it collides with the sun, I imagine. Even though wouldn't really be sound. That's what I imagine. Another idea I've had is putting my cat on the garbage, because she loves eating garbage. So she'd just take care of all of it. I believe that kid is, he's a kid. He's a 20s intelligent person who studied computers and things like that. And I think that we should be looking there and optimistic, and that's one of our outs, one of the reasons to be optimistic about the future in the face of gigantic issues like climate change, and how much would need to be done to even be breaking even on making the planet hotter. Scary thoughts. What is the surface of the earth going to look like in 30 years? There's more and more evidence that it's not going to look like this, and it's going to be not good, to put it lightly. But human innovation has done some pretty great stuff, and I think that's where we're going to find a way out of this. But we need to keep educating people and believe in them too.
I think that everyone's now seeing that, or maybe not. I don't want to make stupid generalizations, but I want to grab the idea of it's my way out. Like, everyone has their own way out.
Mm-hmm.
That finding what that is, is not necessarily easy, but it's always there.
There's always a way, for the most part.
For the most part.
It's going to require, regardless, one thing that will definitely require is a huge amount of cooperation amongst the countries and nations and peoples of the whole planet, which is harder to get than, just New York. Like New York almost always votes for a Democrat. Like the whole state is going to go one way almost every time. That's kind of doable. It's really tough to get the whole set of countries communist and saying they're communist and are communist, saying they're communist and are not communist, and capitalists and everything in between. Tough to get everyone to agree that they're all putting in the same amount of effort, and that all the science is something they can agree on, because everybody sort of has a reason to be deceptive about the information, to make other people distracted by spending too much money and too much time on environmental research and not enough money and time on nukes and stuff like that. Cool stuff. So that's going to be part of it. Regardless of the technological solution, that's a big hurdle And I think we've like the Paris Agreement was like a huge step in the right direction. I think we effed that up. And there's another point in time, I think in like the 80s or maybe even 70s, where an agreement was proposed at the UN, and it would have been really substantial, but then everybody was just like, nah. I don't think I'm making that up, but I don't remember what it was called, so I don't know how to Google it. UN environmental agreement, something like that. And I'll try like the 1970s. Oh yeah, the United. Yeah, there's something in the 80s. Oh no. Well, okay, so I'm not sure which of these is it, but there's at least in 76, the Barcelona Convention for Protection Against Pollution in the Mediterranean Sea. But that might have actually gone through. Yeah, I don't know. There's a bunch of stuff came up, and I don't know which one's right. So, is there a particular reason you would think we should not, or a reason you're concerned about kids coming out of college right now?
Concerned. Well, not really. I'm more concerned over what's going to happen once the restrictions are lifted. It seems like now that all the leverage is held by the companies, now that there's so many people out of work, they're going to be able to dictate their own terms and maybe get away with taking a little more advantage of people. Or that's what I'm worried about, but I'm not terribly worried because I'm not among that population. But I do have a brother who is, and like I see his job search, which is just turned into a nightmare because he got an offer and then they're like, wait a minute, actually, no, we're not hiring because no one's working. Like,
right.
So, and this is just the same story over and over. The companies now kind of have all the negotiating power. Salaries, I think, are going to drop for entry level employees.
Damn, I wasn't thinking about that. There should hopefully be like a little bit of like, when it's time to get going again, like, all right, let's get going again fast because we want to be ready, be there the firstest with the mostest. But if some amount of companies also were like, you know what, we can work with just like 60% of our staff and still run our business, suddenly 40% of their staff is gone forever because of this virus. It's unlikely that whatever catch-up effort is going to happen in the immediate, well, not immediate future, but hopefully the near immediate future would make up for that.
Well, we're going to have to ramp up.
Yes.
How we ramp up? I guess New York or the governments, the state governments are deciding how quickly businesses ramp up, but I guess it's also the business's responsibility to figure all this stuff out. But
yeah,
I think we will get back to normalcy,
which used to not be a word.
Normalcy?
Yeah. But then like Truman said it or something like that. And then people started saying it.
It's probably in the dictionary.
Right, but it wasn't when he said it.
Hilarious.
But once a series of letters is pronounced a certain way long enough. Wait, what's that?
I will not stop talking until I have a word out of the dictionary. And then once I do, I will stop talking.
And
I won't say another word the rest of my life.
I look forward to it. So, I mean, some people like Shakespeare and Dickens, they fill up like they're pretty present in the dictionary. I don't think assassin was a word until Shakespeare used it that way. I think it's like a verb from a different language. And then he was like, this is cool. Things are, because you couldn't just Google, like there was no dictionary on your phone back then. So what was a word and what wasn't a word was so much looser. And I'm sure like, if you really wanted to, you could just go to the local bookstore or whatever and be like, hey, put this word in, here's 5 cents. And they're like, oh my God, 5 cents? Of course.
I'm sure people have died over what is a word and what is not a word. Like so many people murder each other over whether something like semantics.
Yeah, or just what a word means. Yeah, the same word. Yeah, like definitely like ever since there were words, yeah. Mostly men. But not exclusively.
Well, clearly.
I think anyone can do murder over a word. Or manslaughter. Like I thought it said pots, and I love pots.
I'm sure people have been murdered over the word manslaughter.
I'm sure they have. You can't spell manslaughter without laughter.
Damn it! Dude, I laughed at that. That's hilarious.
So yeah, if you say a word enough and it becomes popular, it just
I haven't eaten today. That's
officially becomes a word. Like I think I'm gonna look this up now. Ambiance. I think there's 2 different ways to spell it. Right, like if you go to the dictionary, it just has both spellings.
Ambiance?
It's the same word. Okay, so Google is saying that it's not with the A-M-B-I-A. No, it's agreeing. So even the dictionary on Google just has both spellings.
With an E and an A?
Yeah, like A-M-B-I-E and A-M-B-I-A. Both are the English word. Oh, ambianzo. Beyonce. Anyway, that's another one where it's just people just made the mistake so many times that we're like, damn it, now they're both words. And there's nothing we can do about it. That
I did not know that.
It's cool, but it also is infuriating.
Well, if that pisses you off, you're not paying attention to the news.
Not even a little bit.
Maybe that's a strategy I should adopt. Because I don't know, it's like watching a car crash in slow motion.
I could see it being funny.
Well, it's not funny, but I can't look away.
Yeah, well, it could be worth looking away. I was more thinking if it was clowns in the car or cars, that could be funny. Like I would watch that. I'm not
in a car wearing a mask.
Yeah, getting into an accident. But it's a fake accident, and they're like, "Whoa!"
Dude, and they're driving all over the road, like that's so dangerous. There's no cars in there.
It's like, oh my god, yeah, I can't navigate this traffic, and then it hits like a pole, and then it goes into slow motion. And a clown starts flying out the windshield, and is like his cheeks are being pulled back by the wind on his face, like the force of being propelled through the air is pulling his face back, so he looks all silly. And another clown is coming out behind him, and then he's like smoking a pipe and sort of reclined and unaware of what's going on. And then another clown's coming out after him, and there's just this series of 24 clowns.
Because they're all stuffed in
But like one after another in different positions fly out the front. I would watch that. I wouldn't look at the news. That sounds like a terrible idea. Or a real car crash, but a clown car crash. I'm in. Count me in. Let's do that.
Yeah, we should make that happen.
It
So if there are any out of work recent college graduates who want to make that,
5
let's
cents.
do it.
Actually,
We'll
we
pool
don't need them.
all our graduation money together and then do it.
Yeah, pull it together, send it to us. That would be great. Send us all your money. I should put my Bitcoin address
Please.
in the description of the podcast. That should just be the description of the podcast. Is my Bitcoin address.
If they're looking at descriptions because they want to send you Bitcoin.
And if they didn't already, they'll be like, well, now it would be really easy for me. So I may as well just do it.
It would make things easier.
If you just sent me some Bitcoin so we can make our clown video. We don't need those friggin' out of work people. We can let them be unemployed and we could just be all the clowns. Like, we'll just,
I've always wanted to play every part in a movie.
We would like share that. You'd be 12 clowns, I'd be 12 clowns.
Okay.
It'd be fun. And then just different outfits, different makeup, different positions, and yeah, like you could be like one clown comes out like feet first, and like and his legs are straight, and he finally comes out and he's holding an electric guitar, and just like playing a guitar as he comes out. His eyes are closed. He's just nodding. Yeah, he's rotating. He's like like if you were to stand on a spinning thing, like a record. That's a great bit.
It would be very pleasing to watch.
Oh, we would need the college students to like do the actual special effect.
Yeah,
part. The hard part.
There's no easy part of anything.
Shrug.
That's clearly false.
It's subjective, right?
Yes. Very subjective.
I'm looking at the coronavirus daily numbers for the Earth. What do you think has happened over the past week?
In terms of the number of cases, in terms of what? Like
the number of cases per day. The number of new cases per day.
New cases per day
mm-hmm.
have gone down?
No.
This totally compared to last week? No.
It is not going down. Actually, for the last, let's see, what's the 3 weeks? The last 3 weeks, it's been going up, which is the complete opposite of what we want. One reason that can be taken to not be like a doom sign, but actually kind of just almost a good sign. The initial rise, or not the very first rise, but like the second rise in March, like basically all through March when it just kept climbing and climbing and climbing. That was probably when it was just being poorly handled in the US and also going really wild in Italy. And now that we're getting increased daily new cases, it could be because the ability to test is improving and becoming more accessible, and then reaching all these distant places that didn't have access to it before. But kind of like the worst is over, like the big spread in the US might now be done, and the big spread in Europe might be done, and this peak or this increase might just be because we have improved technology, distribution, and also have gotten it maybe to a bunch of remote places that aren't going to break out like the US did. Like, or now maybe we've improved our ability to check people in Montana, and like it's much easier for them to not restart the epidemic and be isolated from crowds of people versus the beginning where New York got hit. So it might not be a terrible sign, but it is also not great. And then actually, so just the number of confirmed cases is still just like this perfect 45-degree angle, second derivative equal to 0, increasing.
You can
like,
share your screen, right?
Wait, what?
Instead of describing what's on your screen, you could share your screen?
Yeah.
Just by pressing the button right there.
I could, and as I do that, I will continue describing it.
Please. It'd be like you're doing the weather forecast.
Yeah. Share screen. This screen. Share. So,
Yes.
It's basically...
Yes. I love graphs.
Dude, me too. I spend a good amount of time looking at graphs, no time looking at or listening to the news. I'm feeling pretty good. This graph
There's a linear.
basically, yeah, it basically is y equals x. So it's like not good, not bad, kind of. I mean, it's bad that it's increasing, but as far as how quickly is it increasing or decreasing, it's not. It's a constant 0-second derivative. But
Yeah, how is it not shaped? It's not a hyperbola, or no, it's not a parabola. If it were a parabola, that would mean like oh my god, like the steeper the slope is, the bigger, more problems we have, and the slope of one, while like one's a pretty good number, but we definitely want to get that down.
Yeah, really, we'll never be improving until we get the second derivative below 0, and that is... And with a parabola, if it were a parabola, it would really just matter on what side we were on. If we were on the up part still, that would be if it was still exponentially increasing, we'd be in some bad stuff. But at the end of the day, this graph may look parabolic after we do reach that point where the rate goes below 0. And it may actually look like a parabola when this is all over. But right now, it's just constantly increasing for the world. However, the U.S. is still getting better. The U.S. is actually... So do you see that?
See what?
The now I switch to the U.S. graph.
I only see your desktop.
Oh, well...
The story of the frog that Silvina Oncello...
Oh, the story of the frog that didn't eat the fly. Yes, that's a folk tale I created one day.
You made a folk tale?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry to distract from the
/ children's story. No, it's okay. I need to perfect it, but you can listen to it sometime. Maybe when we get Patreon or something like that working, you'll be able to listen to it yourself one of these days. The tale of the story of the frog that didn't eat the fly. In the meantime,
I'm fascinated, very intrigued. But can you let's see the graph?
Yeah, here we go.
Yes.
So if you look, that is a negative second derivative, and it does look. You can see that it looks a little parabolic, and it's not just y equals x, and that the slope at the bottom is higher than the slope where we are now, which means the U.S. is doing a good job, and daily cases are also going down. Look at the past 3 Fridays, they're all descending. Actually, the past 6 Fridays are all descending, which is great on the daily cases chart. But this is all the news I look at. And not every day.
Well, that was great screen share.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so any topics that you wanted to bring up?
Yes, you had mentioned before something about like the economic machine or something like that, and I was kind of trying to get a better idea of what you meant, because, well, yeah. Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you think you can describe
Yes.
what you were saying?
Okay. So sure, I can break it down. Basically, there exists a force. It's a theoretical force. I heard like a beep. I must have got an email. Anyway, it's the force for progress, for production, for productivity, and it takes input of humans, output of productivity, measured best by dollar bills
That's classically what is used.
Value of commodity. But it's not really a macroeconomic idea. It's the machine. It's more of a philosophical idea that one exists. So you start off with the premise that one exists.
Sure.
And then one is like, why do I exist? I exist to work. I exist to work. And then this is one path that many humans take. If you don't take the path of I exist and I work, you're gonna be at odds with society. So that's basically where the force stems from. This tension to work, So basically, through that driving force, you have every job affected by it.
Yeah, that's always once again, it's like the conflict of interest. There's never really a point at which a business is like, okay, that's like enough. I don't need more people working harder. Like, there's always this effort to not only be making money, but increasing how much money you're making. And unless people's rights are properly protected, we know that given the opportunity, a business or individual with lots of power will use that to exploit people. And I would like to think it was much worse in the past in the US, and it's still bad in other places. But even if you have a good job, even if you love your job, that still technically never goes away. There's always, you still do, to some extent, you're kind of the job's bitch to a little bit of an extent.
Sure.
And that
you start to look at what do I need to do, and then you start to look at what needs to be done. Maybe that's progression.
Well, I think so. Productivity and creating the commodities for these companies and helping companies make money, all these things aren't like inherently fulfilling. Humans throughout history have had kids and friendships and relationships and made games and explored and ate food and cooked and told stories, and these all seem like fulfilling things that humans enjoy, and it's healthy to spend time doing them. And farming and working in a factory isn't those things, and it may not be healthy to sacrifice time on the stuff I said at the beginning for repetitive, dangerous factory work where you don't get to talk to people, where you have to respect a stranger as someone who can fire you, a completely different dynamic than your parent, who might get mad at you but would never fire you. And but you're still supposed to show them respect in a very similar way. And like, is that good for the human brain? And ultimately, at the end of the day, the priority from the boss and the business isn't on the individual's experiencing of those things and being fulfilled. And so there's always going to be pressure to get people to make stuff at the cost of them not being fulfilled. And
I mean, I would say that fulfillment doesn't exist in the machine. The machine exists to keep people unfulfilled and continually working harder.
mm-hmm.
And being unfulfillment leads to like further downstream effects. So say a person does something for his boss exactly the way they want it. Boss, doesn't want the worker to get full of himself, chastises the worker. Worker is like speeding on his way home from work because of that, like crashes into another car, and then that makes another person late for work. It's kind of like that, and then puts that person deeper in the hole too, and then they need to work harder. It's like it only creates more work without necessarily increasing the level of productivity. That's another big part of the machine, like how everything is completely interrelated, even if you're not looking at how many dollars a person is responsible for creating in the economy or taking out of the economy.
I do see what you're saying, though.
Like, young people in general would be really pissed off that they're getting so much shit from their boss because they're so talented, because they got such good grades in college, they got hired by this big company, that they're being unfulfilled, that, like, we went through some shit. I went through some real shit, in my first few jobs. It was a big adjusting from college.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just, every generation's dealt with that.
Yeah.
Getting shit on by the people who they are putting themselves on the line for. And now people graduating don't really have to put themselves on the line for anyone but themselves. And that is different. And that's what I want to talk about.
Well, that is cool. Yeah. And like, with the car example, businesses do this all the time. There can be a place to build something or to set up some sort of pipes or something like that, and there's a way to do it that's more considerate of the environment, that's expensive, and a less expensive way. We know historically the latter gets picked all the time, and what that ultimately means is that 10, 20, 30 years later, there's this huge mess that then a lot of money, much more money has to be spent on to fix it. So like, a lot of bills get exchanged, but like, everything's just worse. So it wasn't like, it was very unproductive to do that. And it was not even cost efficient. It's just that because everything's so interrelated, like you said, it's sort of, it's all just perpetuating. They're all perpetuating each other. Like the fact that the government will have to spend money and swoop in to clean up a mess like that is one of the reasons why businesses will be willing to just be like, screw it, let's do it. Let's save the money now. If it doesn't work out, it'd be hard to blame us, and the government will spend their money and all these things. But that's part of the, just different parts of the machine that sort of are scratching each other's backs, or snakes that are eating each other's tails, or something like that.
Still turning. It maybe was stopped a few months ago, which has never happened in America. Never. The machine never stops. But it did.
The Great Depression.
Sure, I mean, I guess. But it wasn't like we're shutting down the entire economy for a day. It's just like many people lost their jobs and didn't have anything to do. It's different.
Yeah, they're not locked in their houses.
Attention all people. We are pausing the machine. We don't know what will happen. Please bear with us for any consequences. And they're just like everyone's dying, like shit. Everyone's panicking, and now they're like someone pressed the button a while ago, but now we're still getting back to dealing with.
Yeah, it's like
Why did we press the button? Like, well, you know, we could have like slowed down. we could have like turned the speed down to stop or something. I don't know.
it's largely about when the stopping and slowing down happened, and not how much we did. I think stopping is fine. It's just how long we waited. Yeah, that's a
we only
really interesting
stopped
point.
because of how long we waited.
That's another way to look at it. There's still businesses running and people working, but it is definitely to some extent like the wheel of stop because people are not going to work.
Well, no, the wheel's
they
definitely not stopped now. It's still definitely. I mean, if you go out, you look outside the window for 1 second, you can tell.
It's kind of stopped.
It's moving slower for sure.
Well, or if it's a thing with many wheels, maybe some of them have stopped and others haven't.
Okay. Yes.
And with the Great Depression, yet other wheels were stopped and other wheels were turning. But it is, and we mentioned the boat. In a way, it's potentially a chance to do maintenance. The boat, the cruise ships docking at Key West, potentially destroying the environment, the flora, the fauna, causing a lot of other problems, spreading epidemics, things like that. That particular wheel did stop, right? So that's an example of something that was stopped. That's part of this whole machine for sure. Cruise ships are huge. I'm sure they play a role in it. And it's kind of now an opportunity to do maintenance. You know, maybe removing this wheel is better for us. And I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Like, imagine being a guy that works on a car. You probably want it to not be like driving while you're working on it. You would want the car to be stationary and not with spinning parts. Ideally, some parts you might need to leave spinning to do what you need to do. If you need to test the engine, you might need to pop the hood with the engine running or something like that. I don't know what cars are, but
I know I'm afraid of them.
Yes, they're definitely terrified. This is kind of an opportunity to do some maintenance because these wheels are stopped.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
And I think because people are spending time so if we should think about what exactly is happening. People are at home not working, so they should maybe have more time for what were the things we listed? We listed kids, exploring, relationships, friends, maybe, and family. So maybe like talking to your family more digitally, and then like stories, watching TV or writing. So yeah, it sounds like some objectively, quote unquote, fulfilling human activities, at least the basic ones. You can eat and cook a lot. You can cook a shit ton during Corona times. So this could be an opportunity for people to acknowledge that a bit more and be like, how much do I worry about my job? How much is that really what's important? I do need health insurance. I do need to make money, but is worrying more making me more money? Is worrying more causing health damage that's worse than what I'll be able to pay for with the money? An opportunity to Google that, like, how much does stress affect your health? Like, if you don't need to work for a few weeks, like, it gives you a chance to do things like that.
But we were under the impression that we never had the luxury to do this.
Yeah.
It's been drilled in our heads that the machine is so important. Let's keep turning. Yeah, maybe even subconsciously.
It's from a situation.
Everyone in their lives.
I think it's situational because I think there are people that do really just want to do their job and actually do feel fulfilled by things that seem like they shouldn't be fulfilling and wouldn't be to us. Everybody's different. but also, you know, if you have kids and you love your kids and your wife, and that's the only thing that matters, and you like talking to people and your job pays well and involves talking to people, you might be very fulfilled in the machine and not feel like you're in a machine. I think there's a way to ride the machine rather than letting it ride you. I do think that you can be fulfilled in the machine. Well, you said before that you don't think you can be fulfilled in the machine, and I think that it's either that you can or
in the machine, but like you can use the machine. You can't use the machine if you're in the machine.
Yeah, I don't know what the best analogy is, but basically utilizing the things about it that are good, like having a way to get health insurance, go to a dentist.
The productivity of it, harnessing the productivity of the machine.
Yeah, because having resources for yourself and your loved ones is something humans have been doing forever. Every human or a successful human has went and collected food and gotten sunlight and water and shelter and eventually clothes and things like that. Things to help themselves, physical objects that are useful and good, and the support, like, hey, that old Homo sapiens over there, he's really good at cleaning people's teeth with his fingernails. He never trims his fingernails. You should go, like, if you give him a banana, he'll check your teeth out for you. That might have been an exchange thousands or millions of years ago or recently. That's good. And like so getting even better than old guy with fingernails is good. Like getting an actual dentist is a benefit of the machine. I think that if you're then letting the machine make you miserable and screw over your life in other ways, then it's sort of like it's deceived you. I know you want this.
It creates solutions to problems it creates.
Well, the machine didn't create the problem of tooth decay. It exacerbates it. I'll give you that, but it didn't create it. And I don't think, whether you are in society or out of society, a dentist's dental support is much better than anything else, and you're going to be really happy to get it, and it's really good to get it and want your family to get it.
Of course.
So you can sort of take that from the machine. But so the counter argument is no, actually, if you think you're plucking this delicious dentist fruit from the machine, that's not a good analogy anymore. Machines don't have fruits. You're getting this beneficial effect from the machine without it hurting you. It's deceived you. That's the most insidious thing that the machine does of all, is it makes you think that you're above it and you're not in it and that you're not part of it, but you are. And you even if you've convinced yourself that you're fulfilled painting and not, working at Dunkin' Donuts anymore, you're still somehow being deceived, and you are part of it. I don't know if that's true, though. I'd like to believe that there is a way to benefit from the machine. Yeah, well,
you can't. Yeah. You definitely cannot escape from the machine without using the machine. If you can't use the machine, you will be crushed by the machine.
You want to know the machine. And I think if you decide you want to just live someplace in complete isolation and eat bugs, you can. I do think that you can choose to not be part of the machine. You won't get a dentist, but that's what completely separating yourself from it costs. If the reward is worth it to an individual.
Well, here's the thing. One person, it's almost possible to escape the machine. I mean, but groups of people is how you escape it. There are, resistance. There's, uncountable numbers. I mean, that they're uncountable not because they're so immense, but because, people, I don't know, aren't necessarily publicizing. But you know, everyone at every job, you have people who break off and then create their own companies. You know, that's a big form of resistance. Just making enough money and then creating an environment or sequestering an environment for yourself where you can, live free from external violence. That's a way to escape the machine, but you're always going to have, no matter how peaceful you are, the machine will always have some form of resistance to escaping it. Like the tension of escaping the machine will lead to downstream effects.
I mean, besides the fact that you would have to physically relocate yourself, like,
okay, so the book Atlas Shrugged is kind of touches on this. There's one person who disappears from society, and his absence from society is felt. The machine's affected by his leaving the machine because of his, he had to have this job. Everyone has their own job, whether or not it's specifically a titled job.
But without slavery, if he chose to go into the woods and not do his job, he would not need to do his job, and he would be free to poop in the woods without toilet paper.
If his job is to survive, if his job is to exist and influence people and just survive, that's not like a describable job title in the machine, but can have maybe as much as an effect on it as anyone.
Yeah, and like anyone, he can just drop it whenever he wants.
But not without ramifications.
On the machine, but the machine can't literally force him back into itself.
That's true, but it will have downstream effects through the other people still in the machine. You can remove yourself from the machine, but you can't remove the machine from all the people.
That is true if you've been already investing time in the machine. Because then you have friends, family, coworkers, things like that. If a baby suddenly spontaneously appeared in the woods and lived to be the ripe old age of 70 and was cleaning its teeth with its fingernails, that wouldn't afflict society because it didn't have any relationships with people, and so it's like it's like a single
scenario,
which is worth noting, but
as an exception.
It's tricky because that's something you don't pick when you're born, right? Whether or not you're in society. Generally, though, it seems like it's much better. Like if you want your mom to not die when she's giving birth, society and in the machine seems like the place, to do that. And then, but then, like you can't just walk out of the hospital with your baby. Something like, hey, you gotta like sign this, and you shouldn't walk for 3 days. Like you wouldn't. And then if you tried a week later, someone would be like, hey, did that woman kill her baby? Where'd she go? Like that. So it's tricky. It makes perfect sense to want to start life in society, but it seems like you're right. The moment you've started in it, leaving it is going to have an impact. But I do think it's worth noting that if it's worth it to you, if the way it will negatively be impacted is not worse than how good you'll feel being not part of society and not part of the machine, you can, but that's pretty uncommon because most people have families they care about.
I'd go as far as say that if one does think that they are apart from the machine, that is a delusion. You can distance yourself from it. If you can perpetually distance yourself from it, but no one is ever apart from it. By definition of existing in people on remote islands. This is like a lot. Like reading Kurt Vonnegut, really, this influenced my the way I think about these things.
Mm-hmm.
Someone on a remote island, like Darwin went to an island. He's like, damn, like society, some shit's going on. I got to go to the island and discover, formulate a theory on fundamental, evolution. Sure. But Darwin's daughter was influenced by the 1920 pandemic Spanish flu. So like as he's over there working on his thesis, the effects of what he's studying are influencing his own life, which are then influencing his work.
Wait, how does the flu?
The Spanish flu of the 1920s, like, I don't know. It's just a parallel to be drawn to today's pandemic, kind of the unforeseen circumstances of existence.
Yeah.
But what I'm referring to is like Darwin himself, like trying to say, I'm going to remove myself from from society, from this machine, in order to take a look at its parts, how it was developed. Like, sure, that sounds great. Everyone wants to remove themselves from what's fucked up and create something that's not fucked up. But he wasn't able to remove himself from society.
Yeah,
and his removal from society ended up hurting him because his daughter died. But maybe it ended up helping him because he didn't get the Spanish flu. Like, damn. Chaos.
I don't think he was trying to leave society permanently. I think he was studying something, right?
Sure.
So he was working.
It doesn't matter as much as what actually happened.
Well, what actually happened is that he was trying to get scientific research for society, right? So,
for himself, and society.
I mean, if he was going to put it in a book for other people to read, that implies it's not just for him. And
sure, but the work he was doing wasn't society. It wasn't work dictated by the machine that it needs to be done. Whereas pretty much all other work,
I don't get that at all.
Like, without the machine, never would have. Wait, you don't get what at all?
Maybe, the reason that people explore the world and learn science is because it is very lucrative to do that. Like, I think that Darwin going there is just another example of the machine working.
You think that Darwin wrote, he did it to make money? He did it to bring knowledge?
He did it in society, for society.
For the reasons dictated by society.
He was fed and fueled by society. And like his expeditions were on boats made by society, and he was collecting information that he then returned to society, his commodity that he produced.
First off, I already told you I haven't eaten today. We're over an hour and we're like, okay. But the point is, he used the machine. He used society.
Yeah.
To get a glimpse of outside of society. Because society, studying nature, this is really, are you hearing this ding? Because I am.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of get what you're saying, but I think at the end of the day,
the value of his work dictated by society was to get a glimpse of outside society and bring it back to society. And in achieving his purpose, there were just unforeseen circumstances.
And also, I think that the people that he saw were a society, also just a different society, but it was a society of humans, I think, that he was learning about. So he just looked at a different machine. Huh?
Finches, not humans.
Oh, I thought you said tribe, because he also visited peoples on islands. I thought that's what you were talking about.
Well, yeah, he's not known as primarily anthropologist. He's primarily known as a biologist for studying the ecosystems of animals in the Galapagos Islands.
Yeah, but he also did other stuff, and I thought I heard tribe or something like that. Yeah, well, no, I mean, birds, yeah, okay. Either way, he was still operating as part of the machine. I don't think that's, I do see what you're saying, but I do think that if one wanders off into the woods and can survive and have kids and raise those kids outside, you could eventually, those kids could not be part of the machine.
If the machine collapses, if it's going to continue to perpetuate, eventually one of the kids will wonder what is this machine all about and get sucked in, or maybe might cause people who meet this person to question the machine, and then maybe they'll drop out. Who knows?
So, well, but we could make the person that isn't part of the machine, and I don't think it sounds very nice. I think that living in the woods and shitting in the woods and stuff sucks, and I don't want to do that. Nothing. I think people choose to be in societies because they're good, and there's nothing like evil or bad being perpetrated. This is just sort of, people choose to be in these positions because this is what they want, and this makes people happy. Working at Dunkin' Donuts allowed me to hang out with you after I was done with the college and have fun, play League of Legends. I mean, and it's not like if it is a machine, it doesn't have a singular head or heart, right? Like there's not. It's not like some entity or group of entities even isn't in charge of the way society works. I think that there's not like the machine is pretty great.
It's great and scary.
It's very
imperfect.
Imperfect, and it's gotten us to the point where we can kill everything on Earth, basically. That is scary, and it's worth being aware of that. But I think that referring to it's ultimately a nice thing, this construct of society where there's people that take out the garbage and people that wash dishes and waiters and dentists. It would be cool if there was not this world where employees and employers have that conflict of interest, and where it'd be nice if no one was ever being exploited and things like that. But this is sort of, it's once again, it's a trade-off. Just like with anything, you get dentists, but you then have to work sometimes. And I think it's a worthwhile trade-off for most people. And then maybe in some ways it's failing for everyone, and in other ways it's especially failing a specific group of people. I think both of those are probably happening, which is why it can really suck. But I think that this is you can choose not to be part of it, and you'll be wiping your ass with your hands.
Right. It's very impractical to even think that one is not a part of the machine, but it could be extremely productive, or it could be zero productive.
Wait, what could be zero productive?
What results? The act of trying to escape the machine.
Yeah, and also what is the word? So productivity. We know the meaning in the machine. What does that word even mean when we get out of it? Well,
that's why I said it depends on the lens that you're using.
Yeah, okay.
Like how many trees can a fish climb? Shout out to my homie Einstein over there.
Climbing fish. That sounds yummy.
The machine, we have to look at whatever. It's an operational definition that's of something that is having tangible effects. But what's happening? you know, you can describe the negative features of society only, and then say, "Oh, the machines all fucked up, man." Like that's kind of where the bridge of thought was lost. Once people realized in the 70s how fucked up it was, there some just were dedicated towards trying to. Uh, um, I don't know. There was something lost in translation. People weren't able to effectively communicate with between factions or between groups, however people identified with one another.
Yeah.
That's why, you know, for the Bridge of Music was so helpful, and the Bridge of Civil Rights was helpful because it really forced everyone to pay attention to the same thing at once. So now we are in the same situation. We're paying attention to the same thing at once. We're going to be paying attention to the environment more than we have previously. The exchanges we have with the environment. Hopefully, these will have positive effects.
Hopefully, we'll learn from our mistakes.
Yes.
And so, I think, and there's this stereotype of a hippie or a person who is maybe subscribing to that kind of thought where, oh, I just want to be peaceful and not part of this machine, and yet are like, maybe worst case scenario, like living in their parents' basement or living off of unemployment. These are stereotypes that may not exist or exist in small amounts, but we now I think it's clearer to see what's going on there and why it kind of is fair for the machine to be upset at that individual, and for the people around them who actually have feelings. The machine doesn't have feelings, but the people around them to also be upset with them for trying to not be part of society in that way, because they really aren't. You know, they're like they're talking the talk and not going to a job. Maybe they worked at a bank and they're like, oh, I'm making everything worse, or they worked at a place that was drilling gasoline and was going to kill a bunch of birds, and they're like, I don't want to be part of this. But what they do is choose to stay at home in bed and let their hair grow exclusively, and also eat and get and take things from society. So that's why I think that's why people would get upset with that person. And it's somewhat legitimate.
Of the outlier effect. Nothing's more interesting. Everyone has an innate desire to leave society. If there's someone who actually does it, like, there's, holy shit, that's like fodder for conversation and for thought. And
well, no, because that's the point, is that this person isn't leaving society by living in their parents' basement.
Any successful or any attempt that have some sort of fruitful reward, you know, is looked at as like, oh, interesting, you know, society from the perspective of people in society, which is most, you know, everyone for all intents and purposes.
That is true. Yeah, everyone is curious about it. It's almost like seeing a dead body, or there's like a few different things where like everyone kind of would like given a free opportunity to peek, or like something they just like to know about. Like sometimes, like if you I guess I can't think of a good example, but there are those things that everybody would kind of like to know, like, where did we all come from? There are these things that it seems like everybody wants to know, that kind of stuff. And yeah, like, what would it be to not be part of this, and to be whatever I'm doing and whatever my life is entirely up to me and what's in my head. That's like an interesting thought to everyone. But I think that there's legitimate upsetness with the person who just sits in the basement.
Well, yeah, of course.
And because
of course.
They are using the things of the society. They might be going to the dentist, but then they are not doing anything for the society. And they're reaping the benefits without giving. They're taking without giving. And that sucks, and that feels bad. And so the other people in the society...
It sucks bad. It sucks because it feels bad for other people who are resentful that they have to work, and like, but
Right, exactly.
it sucks from perspective for a reason. It doesn't
Yeah.
just suck.
Wait, what's that?
Like, why shouldn't someone who I think that so obviously it's a touch situation. Not everyone's going to be able to find a job. That's just
True.
like going forward. People are just going to have to live in that situation where they are looked at as unproductive members of society when really it's of no fault of their own. And maybe I think that going forward, we got to protect the rights of those people. We have to make sure that there, opportunities for getting out of that, and that it's not as insidious as it can be. Like where people aren't turning to heroin and hopeless means of fulfillment,
Wait, what does heroin have to do with it?
means of fulfillment. If you're not working or something, like you have to do
If you're
something.
not working, you'll do heroin?
To do something with it.
So, yeah. So employment is good for making people less likely to do heroin.
Um, among other reasons.
I just want to make sure I understood the relationship between those two things. Yeah. The the point is that things like dentists, or even though we didn't actually agree when we were born to be in society, by doing by working and wearing clothes and not assaulting people, I'm agreeing to be part of society, and I'm shaking a hand and giving up something to get something. And when someone is just sitting around not trying to be productive, not a job, not trying to get a job, not cleaning or not learning carpentry, like not like just being
Well,
something
that's
that's
extreme
taking from society, and not, it's basically like they're cheating the people that did make the agreement. And that is really unfair because, like we said, no one chose to be in this position.
Really, they're cheating the system, not the other people.
But
Unless
this,
literally stealing.
yeah, that is interesting. I mean, yeah, it's, you're right. It's very rare that, your friend or family member not going to work is actually going to have a detrimental effect on you or anyone
Well,
else you
it
know.
can in ways that are not inherently obvious.
Yeah, I guess from a productivity standpoint, I could, like, if Joe doesn't go to the mine anymore, you know, like, is that
He's
really
gonna
gonna,
find out about his wife's thing coming.
right? But as far as like how many minerals they get out of the mine will be maybe be less for a little bit, but it probably won't raise the price of anything in my life or anything like that. So why do I want Joe to go back to the mine? Is it just because the machines convinced me to do things for it without me realizing it?
Um,
That's got to be that must be the case sometimes.
sure. I mean, of course, the
Damn.
machine is acting. The will of Joe is maybe also the will of the machine in that scenario. No, the will of the part of you that wants him to go back to the machine is the will of the machine.
Yeah, potentially, but maybe I know that Joe feels really personally fulfilled working in the mine, and he's really good at it, and he
And if
needs
you
the
want to fuck
money.
Joe's wife, you really want him to go back to work.
Right. Joe's wife is looking great. She's been, you know, dressing differently. Um, it's great. It might be menopause time, so you don't even like really worry about anything. Yeah. In that case, you just want Joe to be happy and fulfilled with his job, and Joe's wife to be happy and fulfilled by you. And that's not feeding the machine. But
right, but if you're happier because you have time to be spending on Joe's wife, then you're spending less time on your work. The machine suffers.
Yeah.
So by Joe contributing back to the machine, he's taking away from the machine in another machine way. I like systems theory. That's how I look at it.
It's very systematic. How do we get to Joe's wife? Yeah, I guess there's the stereotype of like the angry right-wing dad getting upset with his lazy layabout liberal son for not going to work. And I was trying to sort of imagine the ways in which either side is right or wrong. We I think we acknowledged that if like the kid is wrong if he literally is just taking from society and not working at all and not trying
right, but
to.
what if he makes like amazing music that changes people's lives?
Well, no, then he is contributing to society.
Right. Okay. But his dad might not see it that way.
Yeah, and so
hungry. Fuck.
that I'm glad you're hungry, Greg. It's a sign you're alive. The kid, if he really is doing literally nothing, then he's not being productive, so he's kind of wrong. And then
in the lens of who?
I guess in some sort of like moral give and take thing, you know, except rather than being about, you know, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours to an individual person, kind of somehow saying it to 300 million people at the same time and getting 300 millionths of a yes. And I don't think taking and not giving makes you feel good at the end of the day. I think that's a surefire way to always feel bad. And the dad could be right, or the dad kind of is right. It's just that if he's too concerned with how certain he is that the kid needs to be productive in society, if he gets blinded by how important that is and puts it over how his kid should be happy and fulfilled, then he's wrong. But if the kid just needs he needs to wake up, you know, and he needs a sterner talking to because the kid will feel fulfilled, then the dad's kind of right. But the whole reason that is all so tricky is because neither dad nor son chose to be born into society. And both of them are equally, then no one chose to be born, and they're both equally resigned to it. Neither of them agreed to be in it. And I think sometimes part of the frustration from the dad is like, you know, I was in your position and I stayed in it and I did it and I'm here now and you should do it too because I also did it.
Well, right to that point, like it was good, you know, 100%. But now there's a choice in that. That's free will. That's like definition of free will. Once you reach the point where you realize, well, I did it, I should either expect him to do it or expect him to do something else.
And at the point is,
how strictly resigned are you to one or the other?
At the end of the day, the dad should always be concluding, my son is the most important thing here. And am I yelling at him right now because I've let the machine and society convince me of certain things have to be true. A kid has to have a job at this age and needs to be making this many figures and have this many kids. And have I just heard that so many times through my life that I believe it's true? Or does he really need to have this job experience to understand himself better, understand the world better, and maybe he'll really like it? It's something I found that I liked, even though I expected not to when I was a kid, you know. I think that if that should be what the dad's doing, and if he is, that's great. But I think it's an easy mistake to make because, you know, we're all. I think the angrier the dad, potentially more, it's because he was feeling that, you know, I went through it and you should too. Almost like it's like, yeah, it just like, well, it doesn't feel
father son. You know, that's you know, in workplace dynamics, the new person.
Or yeah, you like haze them.
Like this one woman had to peel tomatoes all day, and it used to take her 5 hours, and then they changed the policy. They let us use a machine. Now it takes 30 seconds. So the new person, what are you going to have them, you know, peel 20 times as many tomatoes? No, you still have them peel the same amount, but then how do you make up for the compensation of the work that you put in that they didn't? You got to get creative, else it's going to lead to resentment. So, I mean, we've gotten very in depth here. I think we've touched on many different issues and perspectives, and opened a lot of doors. Looked around, liked what we saw. Maybe didn't like what we see sometimes, but saw that there's ways to change what we see.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to segue because I need to eat something.
Well, I'm glad that we were able to talk about all those things. I had a good time. As always, any comments about what we said, if there's anything that we said that you don't agree with, keep it to yourself. If you want to support us or send me Bitcoin, you know, you can let us, you can literally say anything to us, please.
It's just like, this is just the conversation that will never end. So,
but maybe it will.
More perspectives are good.
Yeah.
I guess the only way that the fort could be dissolved is, I don't know, one of us dies, or no, even if one of us died, the fort would still go on. If both of us died, the fort would probably cease to exist.
Metaphorically, it would still stand.
Okay, so there we go. So perpetual conversation, never-ending conversation.
That's beautiful. If you want to get in on it, tweet at us or please. Facebook post us.
Sick of his voice. I'm just kidding.
Instagram. Shut the fuck up. And if you have any suggestions for topics or questions as well, send them our way. Thanks for joining us in the fort.
Yes.